Do you believe in Atlantis? What about Mu or Lemuria? Did any of these mythical lost kingdoms really exist? If not, why do their stories persist? Or are some of them based on real history? It was first described by the Greek philosopher Plato in his work Timaeus and Critaeus around 360 BC. According to Plato, Atlantis was an actual place situated in the Atlantic Ocean, not far from the Strait of Gibraltar. In fact, modern studies have revealed that the Earth's crust is in constant motion and that continents can shift dramatically over time. According to legend, Mu was a vast continent located somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Unlike Atlantis and Mu, Lemuria was first proposed by scientists as a real historical place. Many cultures around the world have legends of great floods and lost civilizations. The idea of a lost Pacific continent is also consistent with some genetic studies, which have shown that humans likely migrated across the oceans and continents in much earlier and more diverse ways than previously believed. Cataclysm theories propose that one or more of these events occurred in the past and caused widespread destruction and possibly the extinction of early human populations. For example, the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis suggests that the Younger Dryas, a period of rapid climate change around 11,500 years ago, was caused by a large impact event. The stories of Atlantis and Lemuria are often dismissed as examples of pseudoarchaeology, which refers to the use of scientific methods and language to promote unfounded theories and claims. However, these stories can also inspire real scientific inquiry and examination of our history. By questioning traditional narratives and exploring alternative possibilities, we can gain a deeper understanding of the past and the forces that have shaped it. Even if Atlantis and Lemuria are ultimately found to be mythical, the pursuit of their existence can lead to the discovery of new archaeological evidence and insights into ancient cultures. This event is believed to have caused massive floods, wildfires, and climate chaos that wiped out early human settlements and led to the end of the Ice Age. For example, in 2018, researchers announced the discovery of a large underwater platform off the coast of Greece. This structure, which dates back to the Bronze Age, could be evidence of a lost civilization that predates ancient Greece. Similarly, the discovery of Yonaguni Monument in Japan has sparked debate over whether it is a natural rock formation or a man-made structure from a lost civilization. While the existence of these structures does not prove the existence of Atlantis or Lemuria, they do suggest that there is much more to our planet's history than we previously believed. Perhaps one day we will discover evidence of these legendary lost civilizations or others that have yet to be discovered. Until then, the quest for Atlantis, Mu and Lemuria continues to capture our imaginations and inspire us to explore the mysteries of our past. Proponents of this theory point to evidence such as impact craters and high levels of certain isotopes and sediment layers that date back to the Younger Dryas. Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for more videos on ancient mysteries and archaeology. See you next time. For example, one study published in 2018 in the journal Nature Communications traced the ancestry of modern Polynesians and found that they descended from an ancient population that lived in Taiwan around 4,500 years ago. This population, known as the Ancestral Polynesian, or AP, gave rise to the first Polynesian cultures and eventually spread throughout the Pacific. The study's authors believe that the AP people used advanced sailing technology to explore and settle new islands, eventually reaching as far as New Zealand and Hawaii. Other studies have revealed that ancient sailors may have traveled from South America to Polynesia, leaving behind genetic markers that can still be found in modern Polynesians. These findings suggest that the Polynesians were not the only ancient culture to engage in long-distance maritime travel, that there may have been other lost civilizations that we know little about. Could these stories be based on real events, or are they simply the products of ancient imaginations? Some argue that many of these myths share common characteristics, suggesting that they may have originated from a shared cultural memory of a real catastrophic event. From the biblical story of Noah's Ark to the ancient Greek myth of Deucalion and Pyrrhus, the narrative of a flood that destroys humanity and allows only a few survivors to rebuild civilization is a powerful and enduring one. This myth often features a wise and righteous individual, such as Noah or Deucalion, who is warned of the impending flood and takes steps to preserve life, such as building an ark or gathering seeds. When the flood comes, all is destroyed, except for those who followed the instructions of the wise person. After the waters recede, the survivors emerge and repopulate the earth. This myth serves as a warning of the dangers of human behavior and the consequences of ignoring the natural world. It also offers a message of hope, suggesting that even after great destruction, life and civilization can be rebuilt. This event could have been a massive flood or some other natural disaster that wiped out entire civilizations and sent survivors fleeing to higher ground. This idea is supported by geological evidence that shows that the Earth has experienced several dramatic shifts in the past. For example, rising sea levels caused by melting glaciers could have wiped out coastal populations and washed away their cities and villages. Volcanic eruptions and earthquakes have also caused widespread devastation and could have inspired stories of divine punishment or other supernatural causes. Some researchers believe that these shared myths may preserve the memory of a real event that occurred in the distant past. By studying these myths and comparing them to geological evidence, we may be able to piece together a more complete picture of our planet's history and the civilizations that have lived here in the past. In 1875, British geologist Sir Charles Lyell suggested that a large landmass known as Lemuria existed in the Indian Ocean, and that it was the ancestral home of lemurs in Madagascar. At the time, scientists knew that lemurs were related to primates, but they didn't know how they got to Madagascar. Lyell theorized that Lemuria was a missing link in the chain of primates' evolution, connecting them to their ancestors in Africa. However, as more evidence emerged, it became clear that Lemuria could not be real. Fossils found in Madagascar and other parts of the world showed that lemurs had evolved independently from other primates, which meant that they could not have descended from a single common ancestor in Africa. Eventually, the theory of plate tectonics provided a more plausible explanation for the distribution of lemurs. This theory states that the Earth's lithosphere is made up of several large plates that move and interact with each other. According to this view, Madagascar and India were once part of the same landmass that broke apart and moved in different directions. Lemurs evolved in India, then migrated to Madagascar when the two landmasses split. Despite being debunked by science, the legend of Lemuria found new life in esoteric and spiritual traditions. Some believe that Lemuria was a highly advanced civilization that possessed great wisdom and knowledge, but its people were destroyed by a great flood or other natural disaster. Others believe that Lemuria is a spiritual realm that exists outside of time and space, and that its inhabitants are highly evolved beings who have access to higher levels of consciousness. It was said to be home to a highly advanced and sophisticated civilization, but it vanished beneath the waves thousands of years ago. Proponents of the Mu theory believe that the continent existed and that its people were highly advanced, possibly even possessing technologies beyond our own. They point to the fact that many different cultures around the world have legends of a great flood that may have destroyed Mu. Supporters of this view argued that the continent could have been home to a large number of people, and may have played an important role in the development of human civilization. However, despite its supposed importance, there is no physical evidence that Mu ever existed. No fossils, artifacts, or other traces of human activity have been found in the Pacific Ocean that could be linked to this mysterious continent. Furthermore, there is no geological evidence that a large landmass ever existed in the Pacific. The idea of Mu was first proposed by American zoologist Philip Slater in the mid-19th century. Slater believed that Mu was the ancestral homeland of the Polynesians and that its people migrated to Hawaii, New Zealand, and other Pacific islands after it sank. However, Slater's theory was largely ignored until it was revived by New Age writers in the late 20th century. These writers often incorporated elements of theosophy, a mystical and occult philosophy that was popular in the early 20th century. According to theosophical beliefs, Mu was a highly advanced civilization that possessed great wisdom and knowledge, but its people were destroyed by a great flood. While there is no evidence that Mu ever existed, some people believe that its story is rooted in reality. They argue that ancient Polynesian cultures may have had more advanced maritime technology than we previously believed, and that they could have sailed across the Pacific to settle in Hawaii and other distant islands. This idea is supported by genetic studies, which show that Polynesian languages and cultures are closely related, suggesting a common ancestral culture that predated the current Polynesian cultures. Additionally, Archaeological evidence suggests that the Polynesians may have been using advanced navigational techniques, such as those involving stars, currents, and bird migration patterns to travel across the Pacific. While the existence of Mu remains unproven, the idea of a lost Pacific civilization continues to fascinate many people and serves as a reminder of the many mysteries that still surround our planet. For example, the Mediterranean Sea was once a much larger body of water known as the Tethys Ocean. As the African and Eurasian plates collided, the Tethys Ocean was pushed into a narrow strip between the two plates, eventually becoming the Mediterranean Sea we know today. This process also caused parts of the Middle East and North Africa to rise up and form mountain ranges such as the Atlas Mountains in Morocco and the Himalayas in Asia. But it wasn't just land that was on the move. Sea levels have also changed dramatically throughout history. During the last ice age, for example, much of the world's water was locked up in ice sheets, which lowered sea levels by as much as 400 feet. As the ice melted, however, sea levels rose, flooding coastal areas and potentially wiping out entire civilizations. One recent study suggests that a sudden and significant rise in sea level around 8,200 years ago may have caused widespread flooding and triggered the collapse of early societies. This so-called meltwater pulse 1A occurred when a massive amount of water from melting glaciers and ice sheets flowed into the ocean, causing sea levels to rise by as much as 30 feet in a matter of decades. This rapid inundation may have had devastating consequences for coastal populations, who would have seen their homes and way of life washed away. Some researchers believe that this event may have contributed to the demise of some of the earliest human settlements and may have played a role in shaping the myths and legends of ancient civilizations. While it is still debated exactly how much sea levels rose and how quickly, there is evidence that such a pulse of meltwater did occur. Studies of marine sediments and ancient shorelines have revealed that many coastal sites were inundated around 8,200 years ago. Additionally, ice models suggest that the melting of major ice sheets in North America and Northern Europe could have caused sea levels to rise by as much as 30 feet in a relatively short period of time. He described it as a powerful and advanced civilization that thrived 9,000 years before his time, only to be destroyed by a natural disaster and sink beneath the waves. But was Atlantis just a product of Plato's imagination, a metaphor for a corrupt society, or an actual lost civilization? Join me today as we dive into three famous mythical kingdoms and uncover what science has to say about whether they were fact or fiction. Atlantis, Plato's vision. Let's start with Atlantis, perhaps the most famous lost civilization of all time. Proponents of the Atlantis theory point to Plato's detailed description of the island's geography, including its rivers, mountains, and even its capital city. They also note that Plato wrote of Atlantis in the same way he wrote of other real places, suggesting that he believed it truly existed. Supporters of this view argue that Atlantis could have been a real island that sank due to rising sea levels, volcanic eruption, or some other natural disaster. To back up this idea, they point to geological evidence that suggests that the Mediterranean Sea once covered parts of what is now Greece, Turkey, and Italy. This would have created a large body of water similar to the one Plato described, which surrounded the island of Atlantis. Additionally, supporters of the Atlantis theory have pointed to recent studies that suggest that the Atlantic Ocean was once much wider than it is today, which could account for the distance from mainland Greece that Plato described. However, mainstream scholars generally dismiss these arguments, pointing out that Plato's description of Atlantis is often contradictory, and that there is no physical evidence that the island ever existed. Instead, many scholars believe that Plato created Atlantis as a literary device to illustrate his philosophical ideas. According to this view, Plato used the story of Atlantis to warn his readers about the dangers of greed, corruption, and imperialism. If this is true, then Plato's creation has certainly done its job, considering how many people still believe in Atlantis today. Regardless of whether or not it actually existed, the story of Atlantis continues to capture our imaginations and inspire people to search for lost civilizations. Geological clues. Although Atlantis may be a myth, there is evidence that some ancient lands did vanish beneath the sea. Mu, the Pacific continent. Another mysterious lost civilization is Mu, sometimes called the motherland or Macadisho, Lemuria, science turned myth. Another legendary lost kingdom that was once thought to be real, but is now considered a myth, is Lemuria. Sunken cities worldwide. The story of Atlantis isn't unique to Greek mythology, DNA and migration patterns, cataclysm theories. A cataclysm is a sudden and violent change in the Earth's environment or climate, such as a massive flood, earthquake, or volcanic eruption. Shared myth archetypes. The story of a great flood in a lost golden age is a common archetype found in many cultures around the world. Pseudo-geology versus real science. The quest continues. Thanks to new technologies such as laser scanning and remote sensing, we are constantly discovering new structures and anomalies that were previously unknown. Thanks for watching. Do you believe in Atlantis, Mu, or Lemuria?